Hello, this is Allyse Sedivy, and I'm excited to be with you today. We are going to talk about one of the most important things to build and find and help transition people to becoming builders. It's called the three-way builder prospect call. And I have to say that I don't know how people do their business without doing these calls. There are times when I use this call like 6 or 7 times a day, and I can reach leaders and builders or potential builders all over the world from just my home. They're really phenomenal, and I love this specific call, and I've used it for literally almost a decade. I just used it the other day, and the greatest thing about these calls is that but when people get off the call with me and their leader, they usually say, "Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I'm so excited." I mean, that's the results we're usually getting. And so because it's just time and time and time again, like literally 95 to 98% of the time, it's a home run. So I'm just going to prep you just for a minute about this specific call. You can do this call by yourself and use the same steps. You can do this call, it doesn't have to be a call. You can do it over a lunch. But the most effective way, and the way that I use it the most, is doing it by three-way, meaning that if I have a leader that comes to me and says, "I have a really great potential and I think they could be great at the business," she will then set up a three-way call with me. And I'm on the call, and this person's on the call, and my leader's on the call. And that's why they're called three-way calls, and they're really, really effective. There's a lot of reasons why you want to use a three-way call. Sometimes when you know somebody, they trust you, but they're kind of familiar with you. And so to bring somebody else on a call that they really respect or they look up to is super powerful. So you can actually leverage your upline status and your upline's knowledge, and it's super, super great. Or you, as the upline, can leverage what you know and how far you've gone in the business for those leaders that are underneath you. So the other thing that's really, really great about this call is that you can do this presentation or this call anywhere in the world. And that's why sometimes I can reach out to China and Taiwan and Australia and Canada just by being at home on the very same day. And I don't have to get on a plane for every single one of those people. So I'm going to recommend, though, that silvers and above use this call to be the upline, right? Because you have to have a little bit under your belt to do this properly. And when do you use this call? Well, whenever someone is interested in the business. Anytime someone is interested in the business. In fact, the sooner you can get them on this call, the sooner you'll be able to engage them and enroll them in the business. And the last thing that I want to talk about is most people assume that the more they talk, the more they pitch, the more they tell about the product or the business or whatever, basically the more they open their mouth, the more the person on the other end of the phone believes and wants to build a business. That is absolutely not the case. In fact, it's exact opposite of what I'm going to teach you here on this call. In fact, you're going to only be talking they're going to be talking 90 to 95% of the time, which means you'll only be talking 10 at the max 10% of the time, if not 5% of the time. So if this call is successful, two ways. Number one, you've had a great connection with the person that's coming on the call that's a prospect. And number two, they've done most of the talking. So we're going to just work our way through and go through these steps. And we're going to start with step one. Now, step one, you have to do this before the call. So let's imagine that your leader comes to you and says, "Hey, I I really have this great person. Her name is Samantha, and I would love for you to get on a three-way call with her. So before the call, your leader needs to properly edify you. And so what I mean by that is basically I tell my leaders that are doing three-way calls with me, I'm like, you need to make them feel like I walk on water. And I know that's sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, but I literally tell them I have to prep them because they don't know how to do it. And I tell them, listen, tell them I am really busy and thousands of people would want to be on this call with me and they're super, super lucky. And just 20 minutes on the call with me could change their lives. And I'm the type of person they absolutely, no matter what, want to get to know. And they need to properly edify me. I can tell immediately when I get on a call if I've been properly edified. If I haven't, the call is something like this. So what are we on this call again for? What are we talking about? And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to go well. Or on the other hand, I have people that will get on the call like, oh my gosh, I am so excited to talk to you. Okay, I have all these questions. And then they're like, no, hold on, stop. I'm just going to wait. Like, I want to hear you. I'll just keep my questions to myself. And they're so excited. And I think to myself, okay, this is going to be a really effective call, right? So also the other thing you need to do is before the call, you need to tell your leaders that they have to be quiet. Like sometimes leaders will ruin it and they'll sidetrack you and you know exactly where you want to take these people and where you're going. Especially since the first, 20 minutes of a 30-minute call, they're doing most of the talking and usually it's not really about doTERRA. Sometimes I've had leaders that I've gone out to lunch with and I've done something like this with kick me under the table and like look at their phone or their watch going, we're running out of time. And I want to like grab them and shake them and say, okay, you don't know what we're doing here. It's just fine. So you need to let them know that they need to be quiet and let you control the conversation if they want to do this three-way call. And that if basically I say to them, if I want you to talk, I'm going to look at you and I'll say your name and ask you a question. And all I want you to do is give a yes or no answer, or maybe at the max one sentence, and then turn it back over to me. So you have to prep them before, right? Also, once they're on the call with you, they need to introduce you to their prospects. So it goes something like this. If John was bringing Samantha on a call, John would say, okay, Allyse, I'm really excited for you to meet Samantha. She's great. She has 2 kids. Like, she loves essential oils, and she's been a friend of mine for like 10 years. I love her. And then he would say, and Samantha, I've told you a little bit about Allyse, but she's a great business builder. She's an expert in the business and in the product. She travels all over the world. If anyone could help you today and answer your questions, it's Allyse. We're so grateful that she's come on the call. And we've been, doing business together for a long time, and I really appreciate her time today. So something like that, just a simple introduction. Step number 2. Let's go to step number 2. So, like I said before, we're going to just be asking kind of magical questions and leading them through this process, and they're going to be doing most of the talking. So this is really easy for people. Step number 2 is very natural for people. We're used to asking discovery questions like, tell me about, your house, your kids, your business, your job, or how long have you been in this area, or how long have you been married, or, how long have you done this work? I mean, these are easy discovery questions that most people are really comfortable with. And so that's the first thing you start with. So you're making sure that they're talking about themselves. Now these questions, it's kind of like an onion, and we're going to be peeling the layers of the onion peel constantly, right? One after another until we get to the very, very core. And I'm going to go really quick to step number 3 and then give you an example. So step number 3 is we're going to ask questions after we've asked some discovery questions. And by the way, that might take like 15 minutes or more. And that's okay. That's okay. Because we only need about 2 minutes or 3 minutes at the very end. That's all. That's all we need. Our goal is to connect with them first. So step number 3 is asking need or problem questions. We're going to try and find, a need or a problem. So something like, well, what's the most frustrating thing about your job, your financial situation, your home, or what would you like to change about those things? Or what financial goals are you wanting to accomplish? Something like that, right? And then step number 4 is we're going to ask pain questions. For instance, what impact does this have on your family? What impact does this have on your job? What are the consequences of not solving this issue? So I'm going to go back and give you an example, okay? An example of a 3-way call that I did some years ago. And I did it with my brother as a leader in my organization. And I've lived with him my whole life. So he definitely doesn't think I walk on water, right? And also, it's kind of hard for me. I should have prepped my brother better, but I didn't. It's kind of hard for me to say, Josh, like, you need to make sure that they know I walk on water. And you can't talk during this conversation. They just, brothers and sisters have just different relationships. So he asked me to get on a call with someone that wanted to build a business. And I said, okay. So we get on this call, and I'm going to use a different name. So we get on this call, and she lives up in Canada. And I just say, hi. After he introduced both of us on the phone, and I said, hi, Jody, how are you? Well, tell me about life in Canada and tell me what brought you to Canada. And she just starts talking. And she tells me, about that she actually has a part-time job and that she actually lives on a cow farm. And they breed calves, baby cows, right? And she tells me about her kids and her husband, and she's talking for a little bit of time, and I notice that she has a terrible cough, and she's like coughing, and I didn't bring it up at first, and so I asked some questions like, how long have you lived there? How long have you done this calving farm? And we're just having a good conversation, and she keeps coughing, and it's not a regular cough. It's like a deep, like hurting cough. I could tell it was like owie for her, right? And so finally, I ask her, hey, tell me about your cough. That doesn't sound like a very good cough. And she says to me, well, yeah, I've had this, and my brother interrupts us. He interrupts us and he says, hey, let's just talk about the business on this call, and we can talk about that later. And at first I was kind of taken back, and I realized I haven't prepped him, right, to be quiet. And so I just kind of move on, and it's fine. And I went to step number 3, right? And we start talking, and she keeps coughing. So I finally say again, oh my goodness, really, how long have you had this cough? And my brother interrupts me again. And he says, Allyse, we only have like 20 or 30 minutes on this call, and it's already been 15. I really want to focus on the business. And at this point, I interrupt him and I said, Josh, I can set up another call with her, but I really want to talk about this cough. Is it okay? And he kind of backed off a little bit, right? And I said, how long have you had this cough? And she said, 10 years. I'm like, 10 years you've had this cough? And I asked her, well, what's the most frustrating thing about having this cough for 10 years? See, I'm going to question number A, right? And you don't have to ask all of the questions, just the ones that are appropriate. And she says, well, actually, the most frustrating part is that a couple times a year I end up in the emergency room with pneumonia, and I almost always lose my job. And so it's super hard for me to keep jobs. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's terrible. And so she talked about that for a little bit and some of the problems that it was causing for her. And so I went to step number 4. But there's other questions you could ask people like, What would you like to change about your job, your financial situation, home life, or what financial goals are you wanting? It just depends on what comes up in your conversation. And so step number 4 is asking pain questions. Like, what is the actual pain in their life? And getting really, really deep, like peeling another layer of the onion, right? And I asked her, what impact does this have on your family? And she said, you have no idea what impact it has on my family. Not only do I lose my job and my income, but my husband's really angry at me. He feels like I kind of over exaggerate my cough, and then I end up in the hospital, and I don't know how you can over exaggerate something in the hospital, and he's really angry when I lose my job because I'm not helping support the family, and it's causing a lot of marital problems. So I went down to question number C, and one of the reasons why I like doing these on a call is because I can have this right in front of me, and they don't know that I'm looking at something, and so it's super easy and simple. And I asked her, so what do you think the consequences of not solving this issue? What are they? And she said to me something really impactful. She said, I probably will lose my marriage. And I thought to myself, over a cough. And she's like, he's so upset that if I don't solve this, I'll probably end up losing my marriage. So now we know the pain, right? She can't keep a job. She has this terrible cough that she can't get rid of. It's causing financial problems on her family, and it's really, really hard on her. Well, she also brought up the fact that next week is when they take the baby calves away from the mothers. And she said it's a terrible time because the mama cows will literally just cry and cry and cry for days. And she's like, it's a lot of work. I'm not feeling good. I still have this terrible cough. It's hard for me to, work outside hard, and he needs help. And I'm just not looking forward to, next week. So I then go to step number 5. And now my brother is kind of being quiet and letting me run the conversation. And this is where you ask solution benefit questions. And if the person on the phone isn't very familiar with doTERRA's business opportunity or the products, depending on how it goes in the call, this is where you can give them some more information, okay? And you could say to them, how valuable would it be for you? This is what I said to her. How valuable would it be for you if I could show you how to get rid of that cough in a couple of weeks? And she was like, you have no idea. Like, I would do anything for that. So if it was another call and someone's talking about, maybe they're having a really hard time making their car payment, and that was their pain point, you could say, how valuable would it be for me to show you in just 6 weeks how to start making that car payment and not worry about it? Take that stress off your shoulders. Or how valuable would it be for you to know exactly that in just a couple of years, you could be making enough money that you could leave that job that's really bad for your health, or whatever it is, right? Step number 5 is asking solution benefit questions. Now remember, I'm asking just one sentence and she's talking a lot. So I'm definitely only doing 10% of the talking on this call, right? My absolute favorite question, and I don't change it, and I also never ever miss this on the call, is simply this. If you could wave your magic wand and doTERRA was exactly what you wanted it to be in your life, what would that look like? Now, some people like to, especially men, they like to change the magic wand thing. They think, oh, it's a little hokey or a little kiddish, but don't change it. And the reason why is it's magic. And some people will actually say like, well, it's not really realistic. And I'm like, no. This is a magic wand. If I'm handing you a magic wand and it can do anything, and doTERRA was exactly what you wanted it to look like, tell me what you think you would want it to look like if you could just wave it. And at this point, because they're forced to wave the magic wand, they actually start to dream. They start to dream and they start to say things like, well, I could finally go traveling all over the world with my kids, or I could help the orphanage that I've wanted to for a long time. And she said to me, well, I could make enough money so I could help support the family and my husband would love me. And it was so poignant, right? It was so poignant. And so there's the solution benefit question. And at this point, right here, when you help them dream and they're allowed to kind of say, this is what I really want, or this is what I dream about, this is where the connection happens. It's not because you've talked a lot, and it's not because you've pitched a lot. It's because you've connected with them. And honestly, there are probably very few people in the world that they've been this open with. And you now have a connection. They like you, they trust you, you're connected. Okay? Now we go on to step 6. And this whole thing could take the entire call. Maybe you just have a couple minutes left, and that's okay. It could take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I never ever rush this part. This is the beautiful part. This is the most important part of the call. Okay, so next. Step number 6. Ask specific questions to find out how to best support them in their doTERRA business. Okay? So you're going to just say, I have a couple of questions so I can find out how to best support you in your business. Is that okay if I ask them? Sure. And you say, so would you like to supplement your income or replace your income? And she said, well, replace. Now, why is that important for us? Because all of these questions that you're going to be asking right now are going to tell you what kind of sharer or builder you're working with. Like what they're expecting and what they're wanting. And it's way easier for you to kind of start to, in your mind, start to know where they should be placed in your organization. So if somebody said, well, I want to supplement my income, the next question you would ask is, what does that mean to you to supplement your income? The reason why you need to ask this is because you need to know about how much money they're expecting. You want to know their expectations. So some people would be like, well, $100 or $200 a month. Some people would be like, well, supplementing my income is $2,000 a month, right? So what does it mean to you to supplement your income? And they'll just say, well, $200 or $300 a month. And you know right there, you're probably dealing with a sharer. Or if they say, $2,000 a month, that's at least a silver, right? A silver or almost a gold in your organization, right? So what if they say, I want to replace my income? What you're wishing you could ask is, well, so if you want to replace it, how much do you make right now? That's an uncomfortable question, but you can ask it this way. What does it mean to you to replace your income? And you throw out the numbers because sometimes they won't say anything. You say, is it $2,000, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 a month? What does that mean to replace your income? And then you get to the point where you know where they're at. If they say, well, $2,000 a month, you think, okay, they're not wanting something astronomical, that's doable. But if they say, well, $25,000 a month, you're thinking, okay, this person has to be serious and they have to be really committed and capable, or that's not going to happen. And I know you know exactly what they're looking at, right? So the next question you need to ask is, by when would you like to reach this income goal? And this is really important because you want to know, do they want this tomorrow? Or are they going to be a little bit patient? So if someone that wants to supplement their income says, well, I want to make $200 and I want to do it within 12 months, you think to yourself, oh, we're golden. That's totally doable. But you also need to know, okay, well, that kind of tells me where I want to be putting them in my organization, and probably second or third level. If someone says, well, I think, I don't know, $20,000 and I'll give it, 3 to 4 months. That's a totally different deal. Now, I want to be really clear with you. Don't say anything at this point. This is not the call where you burst your bubble. This is not the call where you teach them that to be realistic. That comes in the next call. You just had a really big connection. All you're doing is gathering information and asking questions. You're not trying to solve anything right now. You're just trying to gather information. So after you find out, okay, how much they're wanting to make, how patient they'll be or in what time frame they're expecting it, now you need to find out, well, how many hours per week would you be able to commit to your doTERRA business? And this is a key question. So some people will say, well, I want to make $200 a month within 12 months, and I can put 10 hours a week into the business. And you think, okay, that's really realistic for your goals. Other people will say, well, I want to make $20,000 a month within 3 to 4 months, and I have a solid 4 hours a day, and you're thinking, well, I don't even think 4 hours a day is going to get you 20,000 in 3 months, right? Or they might say, I have 5 hours a week, and you're wanting so badly to be like, are you serious? Just don't say anything. All you do is just write it down, and you're gathering this information. I actually, when I do a 3-way call, I actually go to the notes section in my phone, and I put their name. I put a couple of key things that I want to remember about them, the things that were most important, and I also put the question or the answers to the questions that I ask here. Okay, now we're going to go to step 7. Watch this. We're not going to solve anything. We're not going to change anything. We're not going to, it's an easy call. You just have to listen and help them open up. So step 7, we simply say, I think I understand more clearly what your goals are and how I can support you in those goals. Is there anything else you need to know in order for you to feel comfortable building a residual income with doTERRA? And if they have more questions, you can answer them there and keep them simple, keep them short. And if they don't, we go to step 8. Basically what you're saying is, okay, I understand. I understand what your dreams are, your goals are, and I also understand how I can support you. Now, step 8. You end with a call to action. And you simply say this, let's schedule another time when we can go over a specific business plan. I usually just do it 2 or 3 days, or at the max 4 days from the first call. Let's schedule another time when we can go over a specific business plan. We will outline together a 30-day, a 60-day, and a 90-day action plan. I can talk next Tuesday. What time is good for you? So basically, when you say this, the first thing they think of is, that's exactly what I need, a specific business plan. And I know what you're thinking when you're listening to this right now. You're thinking, I don't even know how to come up with a specific business plan. Don't worry, that's what we go over in the second call. And it's simple and easy, and you can do it, I promise. So they get excited, and they're like, a business plan that just kind of shows me 30, 60, 90 days. I have never had someone on a call, on a 3-way call that we connected with. I've actually never had someone on a call that has said no to this. But think about this. After they've been talking and they've opened up to you and you've totally connected, and you say, I totally get what your dreams are and goals, and I know how to support you. Can we talk in 3 days? And I'd like to give you a plan on how you can make those things happen. They don't say no. In fact, they say the exact opposite after the call. After I get off the call, they usually stay on the call a little bit with the leader that brought them and say, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I'm so excited. And they usually say, I love her. And I didn't do anything. I was just listening the whole time, right? Okay, now let's go to step number 9. Step number 9 is you tell them that you've really enjoyed talking to them. And you make sure that you use dynamic listening skills. So basically, if you don't know what dynamic listening skills are, let me tell you what they are. That passive listening skills is someone just that's listening and they hear what you're saying. Dynamic listening skills is remembering something from the call and bringing it up again. So they think to themselves, she was totally listening to me. So let me tell you basically what I would say. I would say, I've really enjoyed talking to you. And I really hope that next week, when you have to take the calves away from those mamas, that it's not as bad as it has been in the past. I hope that you're okay with that. What is she thinking when I say that to her? She's thinking, she listened to me. She cares about me. Like, we're connected. And then just say, I'm really looking forward to putting a business plan together with you. So, step number 10. Now, you don't want that person on the call to be like, all I want to do is just work with you. Because these are leaders in your organization, and you can't help all the leaders in your organization. You focus on your front line, right? So what you need to do before they jump off the call is make sure that you edify your leader and let your leader continue talking with them after you get off the phone. So it would be something, like this. You would say, hey, Samantha, or at this point, let's talk about Jody, right? Hey, Jody, I'm really, really happy for you that you're working with Josh. Josh is truly one of the most, I know he's my brother, but he's one of the most outstanding people when it comes to making and keeping relationships. He has more friends than I have acquaintances. Every time he moves to a new area, he's the most popular person there. And this business is all about relationships and culture and keeping people happy. And I'm so grateful that you're working with him. A ton of people would want to work with him. He's really good at this. You're really lucky. And you edify your leader, right? And usually they'll say something like, I know, he's amazing, or that's why I'm even talking to you today, because I trust him, or whatever. And then you jump off the call, you have your next call set up, and you let your leader continue talking with them. Now, a couple things need to be said. Don't try and do both calls in one call. Don't do it. Don't do it. I promise you, they have to have about 2 or 3 days to chew on it. And as they chew on it and as they think about the call, they get more and more and more and more excited. And if they were like, I want 20,000 in 3 months, and by the time they talk to you again, they've actually decided, well, maybe if I don't even make 20,000, and maybe if it takes a little bit longer, I'm still willing to do this. And they kind of bring down their, if they had crazy expectations, their crazy expectations. You need to let them just chew on it. Don't do it the same day, which means don't do these calls on the last day of the month, right? So what ends up happening is you have a leader that is excited, and then the business prospect, when they get off the phone, they literally, almost always, they say, that was so amazing. Oh my gosh, she's so cool. And I didn't really do anything, right? And I'm so excited to talk to her in 3 days. And it works so well, like 98% of the time, that I would never, ever, ever change it. I don't need to talk a lot. I don't need to sell at all. All I need to do is help connect. And I need to just basically, at the very, very end, just give them some basic questions and call them to action for another call. And that is your 3-way call. That's your 3-way call for business prospects. Now, there absolutely is a follow-up call, and I'm gonna show you exactly how you do that, right? And it's crucial. It's totally crucial. But I do these calls all the time and all over the world. And for people that don't use these calls, I don't know how they build their business. So I would recommend getting very, very good at this call. Do you know what that means? Practicing this call. Practicing, and maybe you don't have to talk about doTERRA, but at least practicing with people how you can peel that onion layer and get to the very, very core issue by asking these questions and actually going through these steps. Sometimes with my leaders, I've said, I want you to do 20 calls like this. And if you get to the point where it's supernatural and you know how to do this, you're ready. You're ready to actually do this as an upline for other people. So go ahead Make this happen. Get really good at this, and get excited for hearing about the follow-up call. We'll talk to you later.